Puritan Presbyterian pastor John Flavel once remarked the following. I would really recommend anything by John Flavel. He said this, though. He said, "Guilt is to danger what fire is to gunpowder. A man need not fear to walk among many barrels of powder if he have no fire about him." Amen. And so Flavel's point there is obviously that carrying around guilt with you everywhere you go is a very, very dangerous thing. Living with guilt, the guilt of something that you may have done wrong, some sin that you may have committed, the guilt of perhaps people that you have hurt, situations you have ruined. Walking around with that kind of guilt can absolutely destroy you, just like walking around with a candle in a room full of gunpowder. Okay, and we've all been there. Amen? We've all been there, if we're honest. I'm sure that if I asked you to think about something today that you feel extremely guilty about today, it wouldn't take you very long to come up with that answer, right? Wouldn't take you long to think of an example that would light the fire of guilt in your heart. Because, we've all done things that have led us to have a guilty conscience. That's what sin does. Sin brings with it hurt. It brings with it suffering. It brings with us that hurt and suffering both to ourselves and indeed those that we hurt, those around us, that leads to these other things. It leads to regret. It leads to shame. It leads to remorse for what we have done, and indeed, as I said, that guilty conscience that accompanies all of those things. And I say that these sins rightfully lead to a guilty conscience because as Christians, we know that that guilt that we experience, it extends beyond our own heart. It extends beyond our own minds. It extends beyond those